When you think of Australia, you probably picture adventure, these incredible, wide open spaces. But back in the early 1990s, that amazing wilderness became the backdrop for a series of crimes that absolutely terrified the entire nation. So today, we're going to break down the story of the backpacker murders and the hunt for a predator who was hiding in plain sight. Okay, so this is where our story really begins, Belanglo State Forest. It's this rugged, sprawling patch of bushland just southeast of Sydney. By 1992, this place would become infamous, a name that, honestly, would forever be whispered with fear in Australia. And it just begs this chilling question, right? How did this area of just raw, natural beauty get twisted into a serial killer's own personal hunting ground? To really get what happened out there in Belanglo, we've actually got to rewind a bit. Because before the horrific discoveries and way before the massive police manhunt, there was just this quiet, deeply unsettling pattern of people simply vanishing. So look at this. Between 1989 and 1992, this really disturbing pattern starts to take shape. Young travelers, a lot of them from overseas, they start disappearing while hitchhiking along Australia's east coast. Now, at first, nobody connected the dots. I mean, we're talking different nationalities, different times. In a country as massive as Australia, it just seemed like a series of separate, awful tragedies. But for the families back home, thousands of miles away, the silence was just deafening. Letters suddenly stopped arriving. The weekly phone calls, they just didn't come. And that growing silence, that was the very first sign that these weren't just random incidents, but part of a much, much darker story. And that dark pattern would eventually lead investigators right to Belanglo Forest. This is where a complete chance discovery would turn a bunch of missing persons cases into a desperate hunt for a killer. This is the moment. This is when everything changed. Two runners, just out navigating the rugged terrain of the forest, they stumble upon something that would spark one of the biggest police investigations in Australian history. They found human remains, and it was clear they'd been deliberately hidden, way off any main trail. It didn't take long for police to find a second body nearby. And that's when this horrifying realization hits them. They weren't dealing with a single, isolated crime. This was methodical. The forest wasn't just a burial site. It was a hunting ground. And just like that, Australia knew it was searching for a serial killer. So now, the whole nation is on edge. A massive police task force gets assembled. They were sifting through countless reports, witness statements, any forensic lead they could find, all in this desperate search for the man behind it all. The big break in the case came from an incredibly brave survivor. A British backpacker named Paul Onions, he came forward with this absolutely terrifying story. See, 2 years earlier, a guy had tried to abduct him at gunpoint right near Belanglo. Paul managed to escape, and his testimony, well, it turned out to be the key that would crack this whole case wide open. This was the exact intelligence the police were desperate for. Paul gave them this super detailed description of the man, his vehicle, and he confirmed the method, picking up hitchhikers. This allowed investigators to finally connect all these other scattered witness sightings. For the very first time, they had a clear, viable profile of their suspect. And with this new profile, the net just starts to close in. All the evidence, the witness accounts, the tips, they all started pointing directly at one man. His name was Ivan Milat. He was this tough, working-class road worker from a large and pretty notorious family in Sydney. He was also a huge gun enthusiast, and crucially, he knew Belanglo Forest like the back of his hand. And this really shows you the terrifying duality of this killer. To the public, to his community, he was just some regular, tough-as-nails working guy. But under that surface was this cold, calculated predator who used his intimate knowledge of the Australian bush to hunt and murder innocent travelers. So when the police finally raided Milat's home in 1994, they found undeniable proof. His house was like a treasure trove of these grim souvenirs, camping gear, cameras, backpacks, and weapons that were a forensic match to the crime scenes. These were the personal belongings of the people he had murdered. His fate was sealed. So, with the killer finally caught, the case moves to the courtroom. And this is when Australia was really forced to reckon with the lasting scars these crimes would leave on the entire nation. Ivan Milat was tried and convicted for the murders of 7 young people. 7. He was sentenced to life in prison, no chance of parole. And he maintained his innocence right up until his death in 2019, never ever revealing if there were more victims out there. The impact of these murders was just profound. The case became this dark, cautionary tale. It completely reshaped how law enforcement handled missing persons and forensics in Australia. Procedures were totally overhauled. But culturally, it really shattered the nation's sense of safety. It left this permanent scar on that romantic idea of just hitting the open road. So the backpacker murders case is officially closed, but it leaves us all with this deeply unsettling thought. Ivan Milat was hiding in plain sight for years, a monster just living a totally ordinary life. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other monsters are out there, hiding in plain sight?